The sharp snap of a twig breaking underfoot jolted John Parker from his saddle as midday sun filtered through the dense thicket on his 200-acre Texas ranch. A sudden crack that sent a flock of crows scattering from the tangled branches overhead, their harsh caws echoing through the still air. His rifle leaping to his hands as Dusty snorted nervously beneath him, the chestnut mare's ears twitching at the eerie silence that followed, her hooves shifting uneasily on the uneven ground. He stood tall in the stirrups, his heart pounding like a war drum in his chest, the burn scar on his forearm throbbing with a dull ache as he squinted through the thorny underbrush. The lake's silver surface a distant shimmer beyond the plains, its faint gleam barely visible through the thick canopy of gnarled oaks and twisted mesquite trees. The soft rustle of leaves and the low murmur of voices cutting through the warm March air like a blade through flesh. After last night's moonlit victory at the lake, where John's sharpshooting had thwarted Victor Lang's attempt to poison the ranch's water supply, he'd set out on a routine patrol with the crew to secure the ranch's borders, hoping to catch Lang before he could strike again. But now the air thrummed with danger, the thicket shadows hiding a trap he could feel in his bones. A predator's instinct honed by decades of survival on these unforgiving plains. He raised a hand, signaling the crew behind him, Frank Hensley on foot with his pistol drawn, his gray hair wild under his Stetson, eyes sharp as a hawk's. Mary Ellen Carter on her gray mare, her braids swinging, shotgun gripped tight in her weathered hands. Ethan and Jake on horseback, rifles slung across their backs, their faces tense with anticipation. Tom Carter with a machete, his broad frame steady as he scanned the brush. Sarah and Matt trailing at the rear, binoculars in hand, their voices hushed as they whispered coordinates. And John's voice came low, a gravelly whisper that carried the weight of command. "Hold. Something's off." His eyes darting through the shadows, the wildflowers along the plains choked by the thicket's thorns, their vibrant colors muted by the canopy's gloom. His mind racing as he braced for the ambush he knew was coming, the air heavy with the promise of violence. The thicket was a labyrinth of tangled branches and thorny vines, the air thick with the scent of sap and damp earth, the sun's rays dappling the ground in patches of light and shadow, casting eerie patterns that danced across the uneven terrain. The lake's edge a faint glimmer through the trees, its calm surface a deceptive contrast to the tension knotting John's gut, his every sense heightened as he urged Dusty forward at a slow walk. The mare's hooves crunching softly on fallen leaves, her muscles tensing beneath him as if she too felt the danger lurking in the shadows. He scanned the underbrush, his sharpshooter's eye catching every detail, the faint scuff of dirt where a boot had tread, the unnatural bend of a branch, the glint of metal half hidden in the roots of a gnarled oak, and his breath caught as he spotted it. A tripwire stretched taut across the path, its thin line nearly invisible in the dappled light, its end tied to a crude explosive device nestled in the roots, a bundle of dynamite with a short fuse, the faint hum of a radio crackling nearby confirming his worst fears. The static hiss, a whisper of death waiting to be unleashed. Before he could shout a warning, the thicket erupted into chaos. 6 mercenaries in camouflage gear bursting from the brush, their faces obscured by balaclavas, submachine guns and machetes glinting in the dappled light, their movements swift and coordinated, a 7th figure standing on a low ridge above the thicket, his silhouette sharp against the midday sun. Victor Lang, Grayson's lawyer, his silver hair unmistakable, a sniper rifle cradled in his hands as he barked orders. His voice a cold hiss carried by the wind. "Take them now." Bullets sprayed, branches splintering as the crew dove for cover, leaves raining down like confetti, and John's blood ran cold. Suspicion hardening into fury, his finger tightening on the trigger as he chambered round, the metallic click swallowed by the gunfire, his breath steady despite the chaos exploding around him. The thicket transforming into a killing ground, Lang's trap sprung with deadly precision. He spurred Dusty back, the mare rearing as bullets whizzed past, one grazing his Stetson, the hat tumbling into the brush with a soft thud, another bullet splintering a branch inches from his head, the sharp crack of wood echoing as he leaned low in the saddle. Dusty's hooves pounding the earth as he fired. A perfect shot, the crack splitting the air, the bullet tearing through a mercenary submachine gun. The weapon jamming with a metallic screech as the man cursed, diving behind a tree, his balaclava slipping to reveal wide, panicked eyes, his hands fumbling to clear the jam, sweat beading on his brow. "Scatter!" John roared, voice steel over the chaos, the crew splitting with practiced precision. Frank rolling into a shallow ditch, his pistol blazing. The sharp report of his shots dropping a mercenary's machete with a well-placed bullet to the hand. The man howling as he clutched his bloodied fingers, scrambling back into the brush. Mary Ellen dismounting with a swift leap, her gray mare bolting to safety as she took cover behind a boulder, her shotgun booming like thunder, the buckshot shredding a mercenary's sleeve, sending him scrambling back with a yelp, his weapon clattering into the thorns, his bravado shattered under the widow's aim. Ethan and Jake flanked left, their horses weaving through the trees. Rifles cracking as they returned fire, their shots precise, one bullet shattering a mercenary's pistol, the other grazing a shoulder, the men diving for cover as the brothers pressed their advantage. Their faces set with determination, the bond of blood and grit holding them steady. Tom charged forward, his machete flashing, hacking through the brush to clear a path, his broad frame a bulwark as he tackled a mercenary, pinning his arm to a tree with a swift strike, the man groaning as the blade sank into the bark, his weapon falling uselessly to the ground. Sarah and Matt ducked low, binoculars scanning the ridge for Lang, their voices hushed but urgent as they relayed his position. The thicket a maze of thorns and shadows. The battle a symphony of gunfire and steel. A mercenary with a machete charged John, blade slashing through the air, the metal glinting in the dappled light as he aimed for Dusty's flank. But John leaned low in the saddle, the mare pivoting sharp, her hooves kicking up dirt as he fired again, the bullet grazing the man's leg, sending him sprawling into the thorns with a howl. The machete sinking into the dirt, his balaclava soaked with sweat as he writhed, the fight draining from his eyes. Another mercenary opened fire from the right, bullets tearing through the canopy, leaves raining down in a green cascade, the sharp crack of gunfire echoing as John urged Dusty forward, weaving through the trees. His sharpshooters locking on the shooter, a stocky figure crouched behind a fallen log, his submachine gun spitting lead. John fired, the shot ringing true, the bullet shattering the man's gun, the weapon flying from his hands as he staggered back, clutching his wrist, his balaclava slipping to reveal a scarred cheek, his fight drained under the sun's dappled glare. The thicket's shadows a graveyard for his bravado. "Long!" John bellowed, swinging the rifle toward the ridge, where the lawyer scoped him, a glint of intent in the sunlight, and fired. A sniper shot cracking loud, the bullet grazing John's shoulder, a hot sting that drew a hiss, blood seeping through his denim as he gritted his teeth, staying in the saddle. The lake shimmering beyond the thicket, its calm a distant promise amidst the storm. The crew rallied, their movements a dance of survival honed by months of battle. Frank's pistol dropping another mercenary with a shot to the knee, the man collapsing with a scream, his weapon skittering into the brush, his hands clawing at the dirt as he tried to crawl away. Mary Ellen's shotgun blasting a warning that sent two more diving for cover, the buckshot tearing through a branch. The splintered wood raining down as the mercenaries scrambled, their confidence shattered by the widow's aim. Ethan and Jake picking off their weapons with precise shots. One bullet shattering a pistol, another grazing a shoulder, the men diving behind trees as the brothers pressed forward, their horses snorting, their faces set with a fierce determination that spoke of blood and loyalty. Tom tackled the last mercenary, his machete pinning the man's sleeve to a tree as he groaned. the blade sinking deep into the bark, his submachine gun falling uselessly to the ground, his balaclava soaked with sweat as he slumped, the fight drained from his body. John spurred Dusty up the ridge, rifle raised, closing on Lang, who fired again, the bullet splintering a branch as John ducked, his sharpshooters locked on the target, and fired. A perfect shot, the bullet tearing through Lang's scope, the rifle jerking from his hands as he staggered back, his suit torn, his smirk gone, fear flashing in his eyes as he turned to flee, disappearing into the brush, his footsteps fading into the thicket's depths. The thicket fell silent, the mercenaries down, their trap broken, and John reined in, blood dripping from his shoulder. The lake glowing gold beyond the trees as the sun climbed higher, the wildflowers stained with gunpowder, their petals trembling in the aftermath. "Got him," he growled, voice rough. The crew emerging from the shadows, faces fierce, their breaths heavy with the weight of survival, the air thick with the scent of cordite and sap. "Lang's gone. Won't stop till he's caged." Frank spat into the dirt, his pistol gleaming, his voice gravelly. "He's a snake, slithering away. We'll get him." Mary Ellen slung her shotgun, her braid swinging, her voice steady. "Thicket's ours. Held it good, John." Ethan and Jake dismounted, their rifles slung, their eyes meeting John's with a nod of respect, the bond of family stronger than ever. While Tom hauled a mercenary to his feet, rope ready, Sarah and Matt scanning the ridge, binoculars glinting as they marked Lang's escape route. Headlights flared through the trees. Hargrove's patrol car screeching in, lights cutting the day, deputies spilling out, their boots crunching on the leaves as they cuffed the mercenaries, their gear bagged. The tripwire disarmed with careful hands. "What's this?" Hargrove asked, stepping forward, his badge glinting in the sunlight, the breeze tugging at his hat as he surveyed the scene. The splintered branches and bloodied thorns a testament to the battle. John spat dust, voice steady, blood drying on his sleeve, his Stetson retrieved from the brush, the brim smudged with dirt. "Lang's trap, Grayson's hit, thicket ambush. Tripwire, dynamite, the works, we broke it, but he's loose." He gestured to the mercenaries, their balaclavas removed, faces pale with defeat, their weapons scattered like fallen leaves, the thicket's shadows a graveyard for their arrogance. Hargrove nodded, his jaw tight, his eyes scanning the ridge where Lang had fled, a grim determination in his gaze. "They're booked. Assault, conspiracy, attempted murder. Lang's a ghost, slippery bastard. We'll hunt him, John, but you stay sharp. He's got more coming." He signaled his deputies, who hauled the mercenaries into the patrol car, their groans muffled as the door slammed shut, the vehicle lurching back through the thicket, its red taillights fading into the trees, the sun climbing higher, casting long shadows across the battleground. Dusk broke over the ranch, the sky a deep gold streaked with violet. The lake calm in the distance, its surface smooth as glass, reflecting the first stars as they emerged. The crew gathered in the house, coffee steaming in mugs, the air thick with the scent of roasted beans and the faint tang of gunpowder that clung to their clothes. Ethan slouched in a chair, his face steady, trust forged in the thicket's fire. The map spread wide across the table, the ridge marked in red ink, a testament to the day's battle, the lantern light casting long shadows over their weary faces. "Trap sprung," Frank said, leaning back, his pistol gleaming on his hip, his voice gravelly but sure. "But Lang's still breathing. He's a shadow we can't shake." Mary Ellen poured coffee, her hand firm, her voice edged with steel. Thicket held. "Your aim's a wall, John. He'll think twice now." Jake grinned, his fists unclenching, sweat still beading on his brow. "We broke him. Ethan, too. He's steel now." Sarah nodded from the corner, her phone glowing with Hargrove's last update, her voice resolute. "Sheriff's hunting. Lang's trail's hot. We'll find him." Matt tapped his laptop, fingers pausing as he met John's gaze, his tone sharp. "Mercenaries were pros. Lang's deep in Dallas cash. I'll trace it. Won't stop till we know." Tom stood by the door, lantern dimming. His broad frame a silent pillar, his voice low but firm. I'll watch the ridge. Thicket's clear, but eyes ain't. John met Ethan's gaze across the table. The boy's eyes steady despite the weight of the day, his hands still trembling faintly from the fight, and John's voice cut through the room like steel tempered in fire. You held today. Fought like a Parker. That's good. Keep it up, Ethan. The Thicket's just the start. We've got more coming. Ethan swallowed hard, nodding slow, his voice quiet but raw. I will. Dad, swear it. No more running. The room fell silent, the lake glowing gold outside as the last rays of dusk faded, the plains stretching wide and unbroken, wildflowers battered but enduring, their roots deep in the Texas soil. John rose, rifle close, stepping onto the porch where the air smelled of earth and renewal, his eyes scanning the ridge where the fight had raged. The memory of Lang's escape a bitter taste on his tongue. Across the horizon, a light blinked, binoculars catching the starlight, then vanishing into the trees. A shadow still breathing in the darkness. He chambered around, the click loud in the quiet, his jaw set hard, ready for the traps next spring, knowing the chains of the past and the threats of the present were far from broken.